But before I get started, welcome everyone to this information session about the Compact Social Cohesion and Community Resilience grants, which are a special round of grants under the flagship Compact program. My name is Malcolm Haddon. I lead the Community Resilience team at Multicultural New South Wales. You'll also be hearing a little later in this presentation from Tom Waite, who's a manager for Community Resilience within Multicultural New South Wales. And because it's in my job title, I will be talking a bit about resilience, but I do want to begin by acknowledging the resilience of Australia's First Peoples, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and pay respects to Indigenous elders past and present, and to any Indigenous leaders joining us on the line today. We're dialing in from our office in Parramatta, the Multicultural New South Wales office in Parramatta, so I pay my respects to the Barramudagal people of the Darug Nation. And also because it's relevant to this particular grants round, I would also like to acknowledge the resilience of the Jewish Australian community, particularly in the wake of the terrible tragedy that befell the community on the 14th of December at Bondi. And to pay respects to that remarkable resilience of the community at this very difficult time. In the words of one Jewish leader I spoke to in the days after that attack, the community has described itself as resilient but shaken, and I think that's completely understandable in the wake of this terrible tragedy. I also want to talk a bit today in explaining what this grants program is about resilience at a whole of society level, at a whole of state level for New South Wales as well. And one thing we've said for a long time through the Compact program is that our resilience at a whole of society level in the face of terrorism, in the face of hate and extremism, at a whole of society level, our resilience can be measured by the way we respond as a unified, inclusive and democratic society. And this actually speaks a lot to the program goals of the Compact program. And I'll come back to that point in a minute, but I'll just want to quickly run through what we plan to get through in the 45 minutes that we've got today as well. So I want to talk a little bit about what we do mean by resilience at the whole of society level through the Compact program, and particularly some really important elements that have informed the Compact program over the last 10 years of its existence. And I will talk a little bit about the origins of the Compact program, and the story of the Compact program, which is now in its 10th year, actually 11th now. We've moved into the 11th now. I've got to stop saying that. We'll talk a bit about the overall program objectives of the Compact program under our whole of society resilience model, and then we'll talk more specifically about the particular grant objectives of this special round of Compact grants that we're running at the moment as well. We'll talk about our focus on supporting youth-led solutions for social cohesion, and our the types of activities and youth engagement methods that we support through the Compact program. We'll talk about the partnership model that is really really important to the Compact program, and what we look for in strong applications in terms of bringing some of those partnerships to the program. We'll talk about the Compact Alliance, which is the community of practice that we support through the Compact program, which currently includes over 65 partner organisations around the state. And then I'm going to pass to Tom, who will talk about some of the particular process around applying for the grant application process itself, and particularly what we're looking for when those grant applications come to our multi-agency grant assessment panel in terms of what makes for a strong grant application, particularly noting, as we'll reiterate through this, Compact is a highly competitive grants program. So we certainly are looking for very high caliber applications that we receive through this. So Tom will talk you through what we look for from a grants assessment process to try and help guide your application as well. And then we'll try and get to any of the questions that we receive from you through the chat. And if we don't get to all of them, as I say, we'll email everyone who's registered and participated in this online session with an updated FAQ document that works to answer all of the questions that we received through this session today. But if I can go back to the point I was making before around resilience, and particularly because, as the leader of the community resilience team at Multicultural New South Wales, is a concept we talk about a lot, and is a concept that is really fundamental to the Compact program. And it's important to help you understand the overall program objectives of Compact under our resilience model, so that you understand the type of program that you're applying for if you put an application in for this grants round, and to make sure that this is the most appropriate program for that application as well. So what do we mean by community resilience, in particular in the face of something terrible like the terrorist attack in Bondi in December? And one of the things that I just wanted to point out, other than acknowledging the remarkable resilience of the Jewish Australian community, was the incredible way in which communities from across the multicultural and multi-faith spectrum of our society in New South Wales came out in the immediate aftermath of that tragedy to express sympathy and solidarity with the Jewish Australian community. And we saw some remarkable expressions of that. And, I will acknowledge my team actually collated statements that were being issued by various community organisations, faith-based organisations, expressing that sense of sympathy and solidarity with the Jewish Australian community at that time. And we saw these really powerful expressions. And this is what I mean, in a sense, by community resilience, because the aim of terrorism, the aim of extremism, is to incite fear and hate and division in society. The more we deny extremists what they want, which is fear and hate and division, the more resilient we prove ourselves to be. And it's in that coming together of communities across cultural and linguistic and religious differences that we actually show and we demonstrate our resilience in the face of hate and extremism. And the Compact program, as I'll explain, was very much inspired by those kinds of demonstrations of resilience. And particularly in relation to Bondi, we saw really powerful expressions of interfaith solidarity, and the role that faith leaders across the multi-faith spectrum of our society played in coming together to express that unity and solidarity at that time. I will note, in fact, that the Muslim communities was one of the first to issue those statements of solidarity in response to Bondi, but we saw it from across the whole spectrum of our multicultural, multi-faith society. And this is actually something, when you look at terrible acts of terrorism around the world, we often see these moments of unity and solidarity in response to acts of terrorism. And I've just provided you with a few examples, from around the world. Here, where we often see this almost spontaneous and very powerful expression of unity and solidarity. And on the top left there is an image taken from after the Christchurch attack in New Zealand. And I thought it was really quite powerful, the expressions of community resilience and unity and solidarity that we saw in response to the Christchurch attack in New Zealand. On the top in the middle there is an image that came after attacks on synagogues in the United States, and the Muslim community standing in solidarity with the Jewish community at that time. In the bottom, on the middle, actually is an image taken after ISIS-inspired attacks on Christian churches in Colombo, in Sri Lanka. And here the Muslim community came out standing in solidarity with the Christian community in response to that attack. The bumblebee image is an image that was actually a municipal image in Manchester, that after the Manchester bombing actually became a symbol of unity and solidarity for the whole city of Manchester at that time. And the image on the bottom left, I'm going to speak to a little bit further because it speaks to the origins of the Compact program. The challenge that we have, if I can skip back there, from a whole of society resilience perspective, is that how do we maintain that sense of unity and solidarity all the time, and not just in response to moments of crisis? And so when I say we can measure our resilience by how we respond as a unified, inclusive, and democratic society, that can't just be in the immediate wake of a tragedy or crisis. How do we actually support that sense of cross-cultural interfaith solidarity all the time? And the model of resilience that we've developed at Multicultural New South Wales and that the Compact program operates under actually borrows its thinking from disaster resilience. And in disaster resilience, we understand that we can't always stop bad things from happening, whether we're talking about a flood or a bushfire or a tsunami or a global pandemic or human-made crises like a terrorist attack or even an overseas conflict What we know from the disaster resilience literature is that the more connected a community is, the more connections there are between people within a community, that is a stronger indicator of how that community will respond and recover to a crisis than even some of the physical infrastructure needs that a community might have in response to a natural disaster, for instance. I've quoted people before to say, actually, that connection piece, that social capital, that social cohesion piece is a stronger indicator of resilience and a more important measure than things like access to bottled water during a flood or a bushfire. And so how do we make, we've adopted that thinking from disaster resilience to a social cohesion context in terms of the compact program's thinking. And like disaster resilience, we operate our thinking of disaster resilience around a full PPRR spectrum, which is the language they use in disaster resilience, around preparedness, prevention, response, and recovery. Knowing that we can't always prevent bad things from happening, what we can do is be better prepared. And the better prepared we are, the better we can respond and recover. And from a social cohesion perspective, if we take the learnings from disaster resilience, that the stronger the social cohesion is, the stronger the social connection is within a community, the more resilient we'll be, then our preparedness needs to actually proactively work to build those connections. And in a multicultural society, that means proactively building those connections across cultural, linguistic, and religious differences. Because what we know is that extremists are trying to incite divisions within our society. Often they're trying to incite divisions along racial or religious lines, increasingly trying to incite divisions along lines of gender and sexuality as well. The more we can proactively, in peacetime, build those strong connections between people across cultural and religious differences within a multicultural and multi-faith context, the better place we're going to be able to withstand those threats to social cohesion and community harmony that we know are out there. That's the kind of thinking that we've applied at a whole of society level to the Compact program. And the origins of the Compact program actually go back to another terrorist incident. So I mentioned that we're actually just over the 10-year mark in the delivery of the Compact program now. But at the time, the impetus and the inspiration for the design and the development of the Compact program was the Martin Place siege of December 2014. Now, here was a terrorist incident that wasn't prevented. There was a coronial inquest into why that might have been the case, as we're now going through a royal commission as well in relation to the Bondi attack. But our inspiration in designing the Compact program was not about who was responsible or why wasn't it prevented, but our inspiration was how the people of Sydney and the people of New South Wales responded. And the image that I've used here for the last 10 years in talking about the Compact program is an image taken from actually the police helicopter. And everyone remembers the spontaneous flower memorial in Martin Place at that time. But this is zoomed in. And what I really have always liked about this image is the multilingual messages of hope and resilience that were scrawled on Martin Place itself. And the message in my reading was very clear. If extremists are trying to divide us as a society, trying to incite divisions between us, then it's up to all of us together, to not let them achieve that. And that's what makes our resilience model a whole of society model. We all have a responsibility to stand united in the face of fear and hate and division. And that was the original inspiration for the Compact program. Now, over the last decade, there's been a whole range of challenges to social cohesion and community harmony that we've actually faced as a society, and that the Compact program has also been working to address as well. 2019, I already mentioned the terrible attack in Christchurch, still the worst terrorist attack committed by an Australian, that took 51 innocent lives in a place of worship in Christchurch in New Zealand. And in fact, our Compact program partners here recognised how immediate an impact that was going to have on our communities here in New South Wales, and mobilised to support communities and young people who were directly impacted by that. We also saw we've had our fair share of natural disasters during this time as well, from the Black Summer bushfires to 1 in 100 year pandemic, and a range of other issues. And while these, can be approached as natural disasters, each of those has also had particular impacts on social cohesion and community harmony as well. Particularly if we look at the COVID-19 pandemic, we know that, in fact, with any crisis or disaster, we know that we demonstrate our resilience by binding together and demonstrating that unity. But we also know that there are divisive elements out there that will seek to exploit times of crisis to actually further sow division and discord. And we saw that during the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw people coming together to support each other during that time of need, but we also saw divisive elements out there promoting conspiracy theories, sometimes racist conspiracy theories, as well. And so we had our challenges that we faced during that time as well. Our resilience model also has to take a global focus. New South Wales is a multicultural society, which means we're connected to every single part of the world, which means whenever a crisis erupts overseas, there will be communities in New South Wales who are directly impacted by that. So that resilience building approach that we take actually has to have both a global and a local focus, recognizing that we can't always prevent bad things from happening in the world, but the way we respond as a unified society here is the measure of our resilience. And of course, I've already spoken to the tragedy of Bondi in December 2025, and that's the current context in which we find ourselves. But also, since that time, this year has proven a very challenging year for community harmony in New South Wales and Australia as well. We're still seeing overseas conflicts leave their mark on communities in New South Wales. We've had some challenging issues. We're seeing increasing levels of hate and polarization in society as well. So the original impetus for the Compact program 10 years ago remains a challenge to be addressed collectively and as a united society. And some of those challenges haven't gone away. And hence this particular round of Compact. I might just mention too, in 2024, we actually opened a new round. We entered our third 4-year funding cycle of the Compact program, and we opened a round of Compact partnership projects. And we actually did award in 2024 multi-year grant funding to 20 Compact partnership projects that are currently in the process of being delivered. They're into their second year now in terms of their project delivery. And these are partnership projects. So those 20 partnership projects actually involve more than 65 partner organizations across the state working to promote social cohesion under the umbrella of the Compact program as well. But this special round of grants program does recognise that moment of unity we saw in response to Bondi is something we need to continually work at to maintain, and that it has been tested and that it's been challenged by events over the year. So this is a special round of grant funding under the under the Compact program that does respond to the Bondi attack, but also recognises that the challenges we face extend beyond Bondi and the Bondi community to across the whole state, and that we need to take a very much a holistic approach to some of those current threats to community harmony that we face as a society. So the project level objectives that we're asking for grant applicants to apply under is one or more of these following objectives. The first one has always been an objective for the Compact program, and that is to inspire and empower communities and young people to stand up and stand united against extremism and hate and fear and divisions, to be champions for community harmony. We're empowering a new generation of young people through the Compact program. 80,000 young people we've engaged to date as a new generation of champions for community harmony who share the concern that I'm sure everyone on this call shares about increasing levels of hate and polarization, but we're empowering communities and young people to be part of the solution. How do we empower our program participants to be part of the solution? By providing the skills, the training, the capabilities that young people need to be part of the solution in their own communities. And we think young people want to be part of that solution as well. Our other project objectives are to foster cross-cultural empathy and solidarity with victims of hate and extremism, inspired by those powerful messages of solidarity that we saw in the immediate wake of the Bondi attack. But how do we maintain that going forward through this program? Taking that global focus on resilience, the program also seeks to support communities and to build resilience to threats to community harmony that might arise in New South Wales, either from local issues or from global issues. And we also support projects that build reciprocal relationships of trust and collaboration across cultural, religious, and geographic communities. So whether that's metropolitan or regional New South Wales, and also between relationships of trust between communities and government, reciprocal relationships of trust between communities and government. As I said, we look to young people not as the problem under the Compact program, but as the solution. And we really strongly believe that the young people we've engaged want to be part of the solution. 80,000 young people to date that we've empowered through the Compact program over the last 10 years. And we do have a focus on inspiring and empowering young people to be part of that solution as well. We do that by supporting grant-funded initiatives that work in one or more of these youth engagement methods or activities. We support projects that are working in the online environment, trying to create safer and more harmonious online communities, trying to create responsible digital citizens amongst the people we engage. We support other projects that are implementing peace building and humanitarian work. How do young people become peace builders within their own communities here in New South Wales? We've got a great cohort of projects at the moment that are working in the creative arts space, looking at the really powerful way in which creative art methodologies can actually be a tool for building social cohesion and resilience within community. We're looking to empower young people to be networkers and influencers within their own community, to have a positive impact within their own community as influencers within their own communities, whether that's online or whether that's offline. We have a strong focus in the Compact program in building cross-cultural, cross-regional and interfaith networks and engagement. We don't tend to support projects that are simply working within one community, because the whole point of our resilience model is to build those cross-cultural interfaith networks and collaboration as well. We're looking to create a new generation of thought leaders and change makers amongst young people, having people actually wanting to defend the multicultural principles that we stand for as an agency, and to defend diversity and human rights within the program. And we also support sports-based programs, programs that use sports or games or play as innovative methods of engaging young people and asking young people to be part of that solution. We do invite applications that think beyond these particular methods as well, but these are some of the key categories that we kind of operate under. But if you have other innovative methods that you would like to introduce to your application, you're also welcome to do that. As I mentioned, the Compact program is built on a partnership model. So it's not an essential criteria that you provide an application that comes with preformed partnerships. But we do strongly encourage that traditionally our Compact grants are awarded to a project lead. So it'll be a particular organisation, not-for-profit organisation, community organisation that is the project lead. But we do ask within the application form itself to say, are you bringing some project partners to the project that demonstrate your commitment to collaboration, particularly your commitment to cross-cultural and cross-sector collaboration? And we also look to this when we're assessing the capacity of a program to deliver. How can you bring in project partners that can actually help you deliver and help build your capacity or their capacity as project partners to help deliver and deliver positive outcomes for the community too? So this is not a mandatory requirement, but it is something that we look very favourably upon in applications. And that's why when I said we've currently got 20 Compact projects funded in the 2024 grant funding round, there's actually 65 organisations involved in delivering those projects because of that partnership model too. So the partnership element is really important. If you can bring private sector in-kind contributions to that, we will only fund not-for-profit organisations under this grants program. But if you can bring in contributions through the private sector or through other in-kind contributions that your organisation or your partner organisation can contribute, then that will also look favourably on your organisation or on your application as well. The other great thing about being a successful applicant under the Compact program is that if you are successful in this round of Compact grants, you will automatically be admitted as a member of the Compact Alliance. So again, currently we have 65 organisations who participate in the Compact Alliance, which is a statewide community resilience network, and it's a community of practice All of our funded partners are youth engagement practitioners and experts. And the Compact Alliance is a forum that comes together at least 4 times a year, sometimes more, to exchange good practice in terms of youth engagement methodologies, good practice in terms of trauma-informed practice, good practice in terms of co-designing initiatives with young people and communities. And it also becomes a great forum to create new partnerships and new collaboration within the Compact Alliance as well. So it's actually, we've always had great feedback from people about being part of the Compact Alliance and the benefits that people gain from being part of this alliance as well. We have a very robust evaluation architecture supporting the Compact program and have done for some time, and we invest significantly in our program evaluation. And we also ask that project applications demonstrate the capability to be able to contribute to the Compact program evaluation and to be able to measure impact and outcomes for your project. The grants guidelines include a copy of the Compact program logic, which was co-designed with previous cohorts of Compact partners. The interesting thing about the Compact program, or the innovative thing about the Compact program logic, is there's actually 2 streams of outcomes that we measure through the program at a whole of program level. On the left-hand stream of this program logic are the outcomes that we're delivering for young people. And I'll talk to what some of those outcomes have been through our independent evaluation. So the beneficiaries of the projects that are being delivered by our grant recipients, what are the outcomes that young people are being delivered for young people through the program? So we measure those. On the right-hand stream of this program logic, we also measure the collective outcomes of the Compact Alliance itself as this statewide community resilience network. How are we supporting this community of practice to be a force for community harmony in New South Wales and to strengthen that network as a force for community harmony in this state? So we actually also measure that. We've actually had 2 independent program evaluations under the Compact program. The first one was in 2018, which actually found the Compact program was a first of its kind program in applying community resilience thinking to a social cohesion context. We had a second independent evaluation done in late 2024. Some of the key findings of the evaluation, which will speak to some of the things that we're looking to support within this new cohort of projects that we're looking to support through the grants round. One of the strongest findings of the evaluation in terms of outcomes for young people is that we were creating new lasting relationships between young people across cultural and religious differences. This was a really key finding. And when we think back to our resilience model, particularly around that notion of preparedness, how do we proactively strengthen those relationships across cultural and religious differences so that we're in a stronger position as a society to withstand those divisive attempts to pull us apart as a society? Well, we're creating a new generation of young people where we've got independent evidence to show that we're creating those relationships amongst this new generation of young people through these projects. So young people developing a greater appreciation for different perspectives and different ways of life, and actually just creating new friendships and connections and relationships across cultural and religious differences. And we're also empowering young people to become leaders within their own communities. So young people through this program are developing greater leadership and advocacy skills and becoming leaders within their own communities. The independent evaluation also had some really strong findings around the value of being part of this collective called the Compact Alliance. Really high response rates that we had from our partners about the value that they see for themselves and the benefits for delivering their own projects in being part of this community of practice as well. So some of the high-level findings as well is that the independent evaluation found that the Compact program is a highly credible and sought-after grants program that is empowering young people and forming new cross-cultural connections across metropolitan and regional New South Wales. We do have a statewide focus for this program. We're not just focused on Sydney or parts of Sydney. We want to engage regional partners as well, and we strongly encourage applications from regional areas. And the evaluation also found that Compact has demonstrated resilience in its own program design to changes in the community harmony landscape and has withstood, as I said, through that timeline, challenges to social cohesion brought on by adverse events over the last 10 years. So that's my high-level overview of the origins of the Compact program and our high-level program objectives. But I'm now going to pass to Tom to talk about some of the specifics in terms of what we're looking for in this particular round of grant applications as well. Tom.
Thank you, Malcolm. And thank you, as always, for your fantastic overview. Hello, everyone. My name is Tom. I'm Acting Manager Community Resilience with programs and partnerships with the Community Resilience team. So the Compact Social Cohesion and Community Resilience grants, this round from 2026 to 2028, this is a special round of grant funding under the flagship Compact program. The Compact stands for the Community Partnership Action Program, which is led by Multicultural New South Wales. And just reiterating that this special Compact Grants round responds to the Bondi terrorist attack of 14th of December 2025 and supports whole of community recovery over the next 2 years. Thanks, Malcolm. In terms of the grant funding available, so the New South Wales government through Multicultural New South Wales is inviting proposals for the Compact Social Cohesion and Community Resilience grants for projects valued from $50,000 to $100,000 excluding GST per year, and that will be for projects for up to 2 years. So projects will be delivered under the 2026 to 27 to 27 to 28 financial years. So projects would be completed by June 2028, if not before. There is $1.2 million available funding in this grants round. As Malcolm has indicated through his overview, Compact is a highly sought after and competitive grants program. So that being said, successful applicants will be of a very high standard and clearly demonstrate capacity to manage significant projects and deliver outcomes for young people in New South Wales. Successful projects will also show a genuine commitment to the collective efforts of the Compact Alliance. As Malcolm has indicated, that's a really key part of the Compact model and the commitment to building community resilience and social cohesion in New South Wales. Next slide, please, Malcolm. Now, I'm just going to speak to some of the Compact Grants assessment criteria. Now, I will refer you to the Compact Social Cohesion and Community Resilience Grants guidelines, which can be found via the link in these slides or at our website. But I'll speak to some of the assessment criteria now. So the first criteria is appropriateness. So as Malcolm said, we really look firstly to understand if the project proposal if this is actually the right grants program for that project in terms of fit. We look to proposals addressing one or more of the grant objectives that Malcolm's outlined, which can again be found in our grants guidelines. The proposal adopts one or more of the Compact Social Cohesion and Community Resilience Grants youth engagement methods, or suggest other innovative methodologies, as Malcolm's indicated. And applicants will also demonstrate a commitment to multicultural principles and upholding those principles. In terms of the capacity and capability, with the assessment criteria, this may include the ability of the project to deliver results and achieve the objectives that are stated in the project proposal. It may include it will definitely include a demonstrated capacity and cultural competency to engage young people and diverse groups of young people in New South Wales, which may include young people of all cultures, religions, language backgrounds, gender identities, and sexualities. The proposal would also show a clear plan for effective evaluation, including demonstrating outcomes and reporting practices. We would also be looking for the proposal to demonstrate a robust understanding of risk and providing a plan for managing risk through the project. In terms of the value for money assessment criteria, we look to the project proposal having a well-formulated and justified budget. There's within the grants application, we'll be looking for an itemised budget. We also look for the proposal to have an understanding and build on existing resources and assets within the community. We also would look for the proposal to demonstrate how to demonstrate your thinking around the sustainable outcomes for young people beyond the compact funding period as well. So really thinking about the sustainability of the project beyond the funding term. In terms of the strategic value assessment criteria, this would include, as Malcolm mentioned, the Compact Alliance is a really robust network of community partners who share a commitment to Australia's peaceful and harmonious way of life. And in addition to implementing partnership projects, Compact partners would be a full member and participate in Compact Alliance activities. So we'd really be looking to understanding organisations and partnerships and what they can add in terms of value to the Compact Alliance as a whole to benefit the overall Compact program. We we really are keen to share knowledge, expertise, and experiences across the Compact Alliance. So we'd be really looking to the kind of value that projects can add to the Alliance and Compact program as a whole. In terms of collaboration, the final assessment criteria, as Malcolm mentioned, the successful projects may bring together partners or consortia and demonstrate through those partnerships a capacity to engage and affect real positive change for young people in New South Wales. But those collaboration principles would be a key assessment criteria in terms of demonstration of a track record of working collaboratively with other organisations through cross-cultural partnerships, demonstrating a willingness to learn from other practitioners and sharing knowledge and insights around good practice. Further information around the assessment criteria can be found in the guidelines, so I really encourage you to spend some time looking at those assessment criteria in the guidelines. But Malcolm, could you go to the next slide? And I'm going to speak around some key considerations when writing your grant application. Thank you. So in the application process, firstly, we ask you to really consider the eligibility requirements. As Malcolm has indicated, eligible not-for-profit organisations are invited to apply for funding between $50,000 to $100,000 a year for over 2 years. There's a step in our assessment process where Multicultural New South Wales will be reviewing each application to ensure mandatory compliance with eligibility criteria and required documentation. As Malcolm indicated, for-profit organisations cannot apply for a grant as a host organisation. One of the other considerations is can previous Compact partners apply for funding on this round? And in our frequently asked questions, the answer is yes. Previously funded Compact partners are eligible to apply. In terms of what will not be funded, activities that will not be funded under the grants, I would refer you to have a read in the grants guidelines, as that outlines comprehensively the activities that will not be funded under this grants round. However, in terms of eligible organisations, here I do just want to point to organisations that have National Redress Scheme sanctions cannot apply and will not be eligible to apply for grant funds, as well as organisations that are unable to demonstrate sound financial management and governance, or do not demonstrate a commitment to multicultural principles. In terms of the application dates and deadlines, the applications that the grant round opened on the 8th of May and will close on Friday, the 29th of May at 4 p.m. That is a deadline for applications, and no extensions will be available for that deadline. So I encourage you, if you have any questions, please submit them in writing well before that deadline to our Compact email address, which we'll share with you at the end of the presentation, or you can find via our website. We really ask applications to think around their funding priorities and goals, as Malcolm has really given an overview of the Compact program and the Compact approach to a whole of society community resilience model. So grants would support cross-cultural partnerships, delivering projects to empower communities and young people to build social cohesion and community resilience as a collective response to hate and extremism. And as Malcolm has said, the Compact program supports youth-led projects that aim to inspire and empower young people to stand up and stand united against fear and hate and division, and as champions for Australia's peaceful and harmonious way of life. Malcolm, I might ask you to go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So as I've mentioned, just some considerations in the application process as you begin to draft your responses to the questions. We do ask applicants to provide a detailed budget plan, which is clear and detailed and outlines all of the expenses. I note that the grants are valued from 50,000 to 100,000 exclusive of GST, and the detailed budget should reflect that and the expenditure for up to 2 years throughout the project duration. So we really are looking in the application process for a clear and detailed budget plan. We ask applicants to really think about the Compact program objectives and to craft a compelling narrative that explains your project and how that contributes to one or more of the Compact program objectives. We also ask applicants to consider how you will measure outcomes and impact of the project, and also how you will use data and reporting for continuous improvement. So there is opportunity in the grant application to describe your approaches to collecting reach and impact data and explaining how those results would be reported on and used to improve practice. And finally, there's a number of supporting documentations that are required as a part of the grant application. So please consider early gathering all of the required documentation, which will include a certificate of registration, financial statements signed by 2 authorised representatives of your organisation. So just to encourage you to get all of those together early to support your approach to the application. Thanks, Malcolm. And next slide, please. So this is just a brief flowchart of what happens after the applications close in terms of the assessment process and notifying successful applicants and unsuccessful applicants of the outcome of their grant application. So all applications are assessed competitively by a panel. Recommendations around projects to receive funding will then be reviewed and approved with successful and unsuccessful grant applications notified in writing. Following this, the sending of the outcome letters in writing by email, successful applicants would then be requested to enter into a funding agreement for the project. Just a couple of points: if the project is successful, the project would be required to sign the funding agreement, which includes the project reporting milestones and processes as a part of the terms and conditions of the funding agreement, and that would also include an acquittal process, which is required to acquit the funding at the end of the funding period as well. Look, I think that's good. Malcolm, to go to the next slide, please. Now here, this slide just shows some of the, I guess, our advice around some of the common mistakes with applications or issues which we really encourage you to think about in your approaches to writing your application. The guidelines are comprehensive and readily available, so please ensure that you engage with the guidelines and fully understand how the project is contributing to the Compact Social Cohesion and Community Resilience program objectives. So we ask you to ensure that your project falls within at least one of the priority areas of the program. In terms of failing to plan, we encourage you to really undertake necessary research to formulate how your project can provide the evidence base to demonstrate how it can fulfill the objectives that you're setting out and demonstrating impact for young people in New South Wales. I mentioned the supporting documentation, but please just ensure that all of the requested information is supplied as a part of the assessment process. And we just reminding you that only complete applications will be accepted. All of the applications are submitted through Smarty Grants, and you will be provided a login to be able to complete the application through Smarty Grants. But only completed applications will be accepted. And just finally, in terms of the budget, I've mentioned this previously, but ensuring that the budget is detailed and clear in terms of the itemised expenditure, the proposed expenditure for the project over the funding period as well. Look, Malcolm, thank you. There's some of the key considerations around supporting your approach to the grant application. This final slide just shows links to our